If you could give people 3, 4, 5 key things in terms of creating an authentic life for themselves, what would you say to them?
I would say, don't be afraid of life. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to express who you really are, to be in the world without having to fit in, you know. Don't be afraid to say yes, you know. It's like, don't be afraid to look outside the box and act outside the box.
Have you ever felt stuck in life believing that material success equates to happiness? Andrea Vallely's story will challenge that notion and inspire you to find joy beyond the material world. This is a transformative journey of self discovery, forgiveness, and spiritual enlightenment. Tune in to hear how Andrea rebuilt her life from the ground up and found true happiness in the process. Please welcome Andrea Vallely to Bump in the Road. Andrea, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Pat. Thank you. Well, gosh, we all have so many stories of our life and things that have occurred, but I think the biggest surprise for me was I was in a relationship and I had sort of this little bucket list of the things that I wanted and the things that I thought would bring me happiness and joy. And I got those things. I worked in a job. I was at very young. I was making six figures, and I was able to buy a beautiful home, and then I was able to buy a beautiful house at the shore. And I got married, and we built a bigger home, and then I got the decorator in, and I did all these things, and I had the car in the driveway that I wanted, and then I had the beautiful little girl, and it was just sort of this what I thought was the perfect life. And I think it was 2007 when that big financial crash happened. We were hit very, very hard because the relationship I was in at the time, my partner was in the mortgage business. So the mortgage business got hit first and really hard. And I had stopped working because I had this little girl, and everything fell apart very, very quickly and really, really big. And at the time, I was grasping for straws. I went back to work I didn't even know what title insurance was, but I worked for a title insurance company. I mean, I was like, whatever I could do because I'd been previously in radio and I had very, very successful career. However, because of what was happening in the market, they actually weren't hiring. And I remember thinking, this is crazy because I had such a good reputation. And the managers were saying to me, oh my goodness, Andrea, we would love to hire you. We actually have to let people go. So it was like all of the doors were closing. But I had this very, very deep, deep, deep desire to not go in that direction. I did not want to sell radio anymore. I did not want to sell title insurance anymore. I wanted to have a deeper understanding of why we're here, what's the meaning of life, where does happiness come from? Because what I had found was that even having all of those things, there was a crash and burn. So for instance, I remember I was looking around in my beautifully appointed family room with tears pouring down my face. I called my girlfriend Kim and I said, where is it? Because I have everything that everyone could ever imagine. And I got tears pouring down my face. So I'm guessing it's not in things. And that was when somebody handed me the book, Many Lives, Many Masters, that by Brian Weiss. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's about reincarnation, but it's really about why we're here. It's about love. And I knew that was true. It was like, did you ever read something where you're like, okay, that is so true, and you just deeply know it? And
Yeah.
that was what I knew. So from that stage, all of the financial things happened after I had gotten very interested in what does this all mean? Why are we here? And who are we? And how can we experience love and happiness and joy regardless of what's going on outside of us? Because I very clearly saw it wasn't the things outside that made me happy. So the crash happened, and I really got tested on, where's your joy? Because the things that everyone thinks brings you joy were no longer available to me. But I had this deep sense of knowing that everything was okay. And that was a really beautiful time for me. I mean, I lost my house. It was like
Mm.
everything came crashing down. But I remember at that time knowing that I was okay and knowing that we were okay. So after that happened, we moved to a different state. And, I thought things were getting better. Life was feeling better. Things were okay, back on track, making new friends in a totally new state. By that time, my daughter was about 6. So put her into a beautiful private school that was very, very special to us, and started making some friends and thought, okay, I'm building my life back up. And I had really been studying deeply happiness. I was very interested in happiness. And I studied with Dr. Robert Holden, who at the time was the creator, well, he still is the creator of the Happiness Project, which at the time was the only scientifically proven method to increase your level of happiness. And I went all around to study with him and get these certifications because I decided I want to be a coach. I want to help people find their joy. And the biggest wow that happened to me was one day I got 2 emails simultaneously. One came in first, and it was from the Institute for Psychology of Eating, which is the biggest institute. At the time, it was the biggest institute, like to become a health coach. It was very, very prominent um, institute. And I got an email from them saying I'd started writing a blog. And I had no idea anybody was reading my blog. I was just writing it for me. And I got an email from them saying, "You are in the top 10 of the top 100 self help blogs." And I was like, "What? Somebody's reading my blog? What, are you kidding me?" And it was alongside Psychology Today and Marianne Williamson's blog. And then there was Lil Ol' Me. And I was absolutely floored. And I remember I still have like my 6 best friends from high school, actually from junior high. And I grabbed, I was on my computer and I right away emailed all of them. I did this group email and I'm like, "You're not going to believe this. Somebody's reading my blog. This is a really big deal. Like, how am I alongside Psychology Today and Marianne Williamson? This is crazy." And I sent them the email and I heard my computer at the time, your computer would ding if you get an email. I don't know, it might still do that today, but I hear the ding and I'm so excited and I'm thinking like, "Oh my goodness, this is going to be one of my besties." And yay, we can celebrate this huge win together. And it was an email saying, "Hello, Andrea, I've been sleeping with your partner."
Oh
And
my god.
it was a full description about me, my child, my family, like really spooky, really spooky. And I remember at that moment, it was like so surreal to me. I I was just I couldn't believe it was like this out of body experience because you think you know your life and then you get an email from somebody that starts telling you all of these personal things about you and your parents and your kid and your partner.
Mm.
I mean, it was really, really creepy. And I just remember I actually felt like out of body. I felt like this can't be true because when you're in this situation you feel like that's your stability, right? Like you feel like you got this, especially because we had been through a lot of instability with having to move and sell our home and all these crazy things that happen, but starting a new life, getting back on track. And that's how I was feeling, like, okay, we're back on our feet, we're okay. And we weren't okay. So at that moment, I it was interesting because at that moment I thought to myself, okay, this is here so that I can teach forgiveness, because there were two things that I one was that I'm not a victim. I decided at that moment I'm not a victim. I know this is occurring. This looks like it's happening to me, but this is happening for me and I'm responsible for this. And the other thing that I knew um, was that this was uh, something for me to learn and experience so that I would be a more authentic teacher and a more authentic coach. So I knew those two things, as difficult as the situation was. So the first thing that happened was I was like, okay, I'm all about forgiveness. So let's work this out, you know? Um, so for about 2 years, we did go to counseling. And it was really interesting because one day we were on our way and we got in an argument in the car. So I was dropped off at the therapist's office, and this was before Uber or anything like that. And, it was just like, left me like, okay, goodbye, good luck. Again, this was before Uber, and it was about 40 minutes away from where we lived. So I went to the counselor's office and I just said, I think I'm done. I don't think, you know, I, I don't think this is sustainable anymore. And it was really interesting because that night I just started working at a treatment center with people with dual diagnosis and people that were experiencing addictions. And I was a coach by this time. I'd already had like 5,000 certifications. I was certified in hypnosis and NLP and life coaching and success coaching and happiness coaching and angel card reading, like anything I could really get my hands on. I was like, I'm doing it. So I was coaching at a treatment center, and it was like my second group. And it had to have been my third because there was this kid there who, I mean, he wasn't a kid, he was in his early 20s, but he, I recognized him. He kept coming back to the group. And I said to him, every time he would come in, this was the third time, he would talk about how bad his relationship was with the woman he was with. And I said to him, why are you staying? And he said, because I'm not done learning. And it was so interesting because at that moment, I knew I was. I knew I was done learning from that conversation. So came home that night and I said, I'm going to be leaving tomorrow. I don't know where I'm going. I'm going to find a place for me and our daughter. But I'm not staying here. And it was a wake up call for me. But what was interesting was I also knew that I would leave with nothing, because I knew that the fight that would happen if I tried to leave with anything wasn't worth my energy. And I thought, I'll figure this out on my own. Now, I had just gotten a job working at a treatment center, so I did not have 2 cents to my name. Um, and I found out that my credit had been used. So my credit, and I was always like, perfect credit. That wasn't the case. It was like there were all these things that started to unfold when I started to look into the situation more deeply. So what happened was the miracle was that I knew I was done. I knew I'd be okay. I knew I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have a credit score that was going to help me out. I then found out. Um, and I didn't have money in the bank. Um, and soon after that, I didn't even have a car, but we'll get there. So what happened was when I made that decision, I remembered that I had a friend that I hadn't seen in years that I had ran into a couple weeks ago. And she said to me, I'm going away for the summer. And if you ever need a place to stay, and I don't know what in her mind said if you need a place to stay, but she said, look, if you and your family even want to do like a little weekend getaway, because she had a beautiful home with a pool, and you know, you can stay at my place. I hadn't seen her in years. And I was like, you know what? I need that right now. So I called her and she said, my brother will be there tomorrow to let you in. You can stay for 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So I had a beautiful place for me and my daughter to stay for 6 weeks. And it was like, as soon as I broke myself free from the idea that I was stuck, right? Because how many of us think, well, I'm stuck. I can't leave because I don't have any money. I didn't have any money. I didn't even have credit, And I had a brand new job that wasn't even a full time job. I was literally like, doing these coaching sessions there. I think they were paying me per session. I mean, and I had a couple coaching clients. I mean, I did not have a career at this time. So, but it was so interesting because I knew I would be okay. So I had a beautiful place to stay for 6 weeks, and everything kept unfolding to support me. When the 6 weeks were up, so in between all of that, I knew I was going to need a place to stay. So I had it. This is so crazy. From my boot camp, I used to go to boot camp every morning. There was a girl in my boot camp who one day she was like, I'm leaving for the summer and I need somebody to sublet my place for the summer. So I was like, wait a minute, I can do that. I can sublet your place for the summer because I could afford it. So it was like everything unfolded for me. I had a place to stay for 6 weeks. There was a 2 week little interim in between when the sublet was available. That 2 weeks, I had no idea where I was staying. I was taking my daughter to the Katy Perry concert. And I remember walking up the steps to the Katy Perry concert with tears in my eyes, thinking, oh Lord, where are we going to stay for 2 weeks? Right. And that song Safe and Sound was playing. Like I could hear it. It was the opening act, was the people that sing Safe and Sound. And I don't know what their name is, but I knew it was for me. I knew that song was for me. And I walked up those stairs and I heard it and I said, I know that's for me. I know we're okay. And we're in the concert and I was wearing one of those bags that sort of like goes over your shoulder so I could feel my phone ringing. So I looked in and it was my friend. So I picked it up at the concert and I'm like, hi, I'm here and at this concert. And she says to me, I have the craziest question. Now, she didn't know what was going on because I didn't broadcast to the world my woes. I did not. There were a few people that knew what was happening, but I was like, carry on, carry on, carry on. So she said to me, this is really crazy. I know I'm going to ask you a crazy question, but we're going to London tomorrow for 2 weeks, and our cat sitter just bailed on us. Is there any chance you could come and watch my cats? Now, on top of everything, I'm a huge cat fan. I have a cat. And I'm like, can I watch your cats? I'm like, you have no idea how perfect this is. It was like everything unfolding. So I had a place to stay and I got to watch your kitties, which was so happy. So then so then I had the place to stay for 3 months that unfolded, which I could afford because it was a sublet and it was super inexpensive. By that time, I had gotten a full-time job at this treatment center. Now it wasn't big pay, but it was huge reward. And I could afford it. I could afford to do that and I could afford, it was like I can do this, I can do this. So, and in the interim of that, I just knew I had a BMW convertible at that time, which was a very expensive car, and I could not afford that car. And in our separation agreement, that car was supposed to be taken care of for me. That was part of our agreement. And I just knew that even though it was in the agreement, it really didn't matter because this other person did not want me to be okay. And that's okay. That's totally okay. And I remember thinking, I have a feeling this car is going to get towed one day. And it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I remember hearing, ee, and I look out and I'm like, there she goes. So I ran downstairs, tears in my eyes. I went and got these from at the time, my company's still called Spread Happy, but it's my parent company. Now we go by Shift Happens Global. But at the time I had these Spread Happy bumper stickers and those little magnets that you put on your car. So I ran down to get my Spread Happy magnet and I'm crying and I'm like, but it's okay, but it's okay. I mean,
Oh,
it was like everything you could possibly imagine was happening. It was so funny. But I was okay. It was like I was like, listen, if I have to take the bus to work, and actually where I worked was probably about a mile and a half from where I live. So I was like, if I have to walk, I will be fine. I will be fine. It was like I knew that I would be fine. And what was so beautiful was, I called my parents, as you do, and my dad stepped up because I didn't have any credit. So I couldn't even go out and get a car. My dad said, listen, I will put it in my name. You're paying for it. You're an adult. You're paying for it, but I will put it in my name and, let's go get you a car. So we went to off lease only and I got a car. So that worked out beautifully. And then I needed to get a place and I didn't have any credit. So there was one place for lease in the complex where I was living and I really loved it. Oh, which I didn't tell you this part. The part where I was I was subletting for super cheap was directly on the intercoastal in Delray Beach, Florida. And when I say directly, I mean it was me and the water. Double doors everywhere, windows everywhere, me and the water. It was stunning. So somehow I went from a stunning house to a stunning place that I was subletting, which was super crazily enough, it was super cheap. Um, and there was a place that was for rent in a different building, but still in that complex. And I was like, oh, you know what? They know me here. I'd only, been there a little bit, but I was like, let me at least give it a try. So I called the real estate agent and I told him my story. I said, listen, I have a job, I can afford it. Um, but I don't have any credit, and here's why, and I'm going through a divorce, and all this kind of stuff. And he said, listen, all I can do is talk to he was kind. And he said, all I can do is talk to the owners. And I said, okay. And the owners accepted me. So what happened in the interim was here's another amazing thing that happened. So I didn't have money, right? Like I had money to pay my bills, but I didn't have money to go out and buy furniture. And when I left, I took my daughter's bedroom furniture and a cabinet. That was it. I left. When I tell you I left with nothing, I left with nothing. So a friend of mine randomly called me who had been redoing a place in Palm Beach. And she said, I've decided that I'm going to sell this place. I'm moving back to Connecticut. I ordered this custom furniture from Crate and Barrel, and I want to gift it to you. Now, she didn't even know it was happening because, like I said, I didn't broadcast it. She just said to me, I have this furniture and I want to gift it to you. I'm like, what? And it was about $17,000 worth of furniture at the time,
Wow.
10 years ago. Yeah. So I said yes. It was like all these times in my life where I got to say yes, because how many times are we like, no, 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 at least my personality, no, 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 I'm the helper. I'm not the one who receives, right? I'm the helper. But it was like such a beautiful time for me to learn to receive. So I had gotten a place, I had furniture, and then it was like all of these people said, oh, I have a dining room set that I'm getting rid of. It was like just everything. It was like the red carpet was rolled out for me. It was unbelievable. Then, and there's more. Then I meet the love of my life, who I was working at the treatment center, and one of the owners said to me, and this is really funny. She said, my nephew is coming here from England because one of the partners had left, and he was the guy that was doing sort of the like life coaching, like getting the people that were in treatment ready for the world kind of thing. And she said, my nephew used to work for Tony Robbins, and he's coming to do some consulting until we can find somebody full time. And all I was thinking is, this pompous ass from England is going to come here and steal my thunder, because I had a really nice gig, and all the clients, we had a great rapport. Because she said to me, well, you're probably going to have to work with him because you guys kind of do something similar, and he's coming here to consult. So I just wanted to let you know. And I'm like, oh, great, because I was loving what I was doing. I'm like, here comes somebody to steal my thunder. Well, the somebody that came to steal my thunder was my dream man. And we've been our 9-year anniversary is in a week. The day we met, it was it was like we both knew. I looked in his eyes and I knew that he was put on the planet for me, and I was put on the planet for him. And it was just the craziest, most amazing situation ever. And it just happened. And I remember thinking, like, anybody else would be so analytical about this and think, you just got out of a relationship. What are you doing? But I knew it was meant for me. I knew it deeply. It was like, okay, I can get in my head and get all crazy about this and think, but you haven't dated and you haven't processed and all that stuff. But I was like, I've been processing for years already, because I've been studying life and studying how we function and studying forgiveness and acceptance and, all these things. And even to today with my ex, I don't feel any remorse. I don't feel any regret about what happened, or I'm not angry at him. There's none of that, because I truly, deeply understand he was doing the best he could do with what looked real and true to him. And I get that. I really get it. That was our life path. And I believe, and I actually deeply know that before, we came to this planet, there were things I wanted to learn. And his beautiful soul stepped up and said, I'm going to teach you. And I said, fantastic. Let's do this together. And that was our agreement. I deeply, deeply know that. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, because there was so much extra baggage that came with that. I just sort of gave you the tiny little cliff notes, but there was a lot of financial craziness and lots of stuff that went on that's just not even worth us talking about, because we want to share what happened, the good stuff, right? But I think because I did not focus on the bad, and I was so willing to look at my part in the situation, what I can learn, and on a deeper level, big picture, how can I be of service to the world with this understanding in a space of love? So let me get back to something good. So me and the guy, my now husband Lee, who we've started this. We have our company together. We've our programs together. We've created the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful programs for teens and families together. It's our baby. Um, we so I had the other apartment in the other building. So we got married, and the place that was on the water that I told you about,
Mhm.
when I tell you it was a miracle, the girl that was living there, because she came back and lived there, called me up and she said, I'm leaving and I'm moving. And she had a roommate. And she's like, and my roommate doesn't want the place. So I'm calling you first to see if you want it. Now, here's the thing, in that place, you couldn't get a place there. Okay. It's right directly on the intercoastal. Like, as soon as it goes up, it's one of those places where it's a word of mouth thing. But she said to me, I will speak to the owner on your behalf. And if you want it, it's yours.
Mm.
Now, the fact that she was moving because she had such a great deal, like he was literally giving it to her for next to nothing. So it was less than the place that I was in. It was right smack on the intercoastal. And the fact that her roommate didn't want it was insane. Let me tell you how insane this was. We said yes. She was moving in with a boyfriend. We said yes. A month later, she broke up with the boyfriend. So, I mean, it was like when I tell you it was this crazy window of us getting this dream place on the intercoastal. I mean, everything just, it was like when I let go of the idea that I was stuck, the red carpet was just rolled out, rolled out, rolled out, even to the fact of meeting Lee, my husband. Um, so again, I just gave you the cliff notes. But it was so amazing when you let go of something. And I think we get so trapped thinking that we're stuck, or the rules around things like, well, I can't get divorced, or I can't leave. I don't have any money. I can't do this. I can't do that. I had nothing. I mean, when I tell you I left with the bedroom set, I wasn't kidding. Nothing. Clothes. I mean, I just left everything because I just needed to release it. I was like, you know what? This is for me to release. This is for me to give up things. And I knew it. And when I did that, what opened up for me was just magical. And I will tell you that the life that we have built together, it's one thing after another of just the most beautiful um, unfoldings when we get out of the way of thinking that something has to be done in a certain way in order to fit in. You know what I mean? Or in order to, you kind of have to let go of the whole what other people think and all that stuff in order to really dig into your life and enjoy it.
It's important to be creative, and I think so often society moves us down this linear path. Um, you know, uh, you were on it earlier, where things you have the right car, you have the right house and everything else, but it
Yeah,
doesn't feed your soul.
no.
Your journey is so spiritual. Have you always been a spiritual person, or was there a turning point for you?
Um, I realized that I have, but I didn't know it. My turning point was getting that book, Many Lives, Many Masters, because when I read it, I knew it was true. So that was when I started to read a lot of other spiritual teachers, and it was like I couldn't get enough of it. I couldn't get enough. Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle, Thich Nhat Hanh. I mean, those were the books I was reading initially. And then I met, Robert Holden, and I mean, now it's, we follow or A Course in Miracles. We practice A Course in Miracles every day. We're three principal practitioners. Sydney Banks. Not a lot of people know the work of Sydney Banks, but he teaches the physics behind psychology. I'm a big fan of Muji. Like, there's just so many amazing teachers to follow. Rupert Spira. So through the years, I feel like we've had a taste of so many different beautiful teachers, and we've sort of taken all the pieces from that and created our own formula for being in the world, but not being an effect of the world, and being in the world and being experiencing your highest potential from all of these different beautiful teachers. And we're always a student. I mean, we're always a student, always practicing, but from making that a priority. And I think that's why I was so, even though that situation of course was very difficult going through it and seeing that I had this big chunk of my life that wasn't even true, because that's the part that I didn't tell you too much
That's
about.
that's devastating. I have been through something like that.
Yeah.
It is beyond devastating.
Yes. Yeah. So I believe that this understanding, Marianne Williamson, there's just so many beautiful teachers, helped me to see it from what I call above the maze, so that I could see big picture, that nothing has meaning unless I give it meaning, and nothing can take me down unless I decide, unless I give away my power, right? And I'm not willing to do that. So I believe that that's what held all of this together, held myself together, and also helped me be a more authentic coach and teacher and creator of programs to help people be their most authentic version of themselves and not be afraid of what's happening in the world. You know,
What is authenticity?
authenticity is the license to be who you really are without your story.
Oh, that's beautiful. If you could give people 3, 4, 5 key things in terms of creating an authentic life for themselves, what would you say to them?
I would say, don't be afraid of life. Don't be afraid to say no. Um, don't be afraid to express who you really are, to be in the world without having to fit in, you know. Don't be afraid to say yes, you know. It's like, don't be afraid to look outside the box and act outside the box.
I think saying yes is a really big piece of it
Mhm.
because we get if you pay attention, we get a lot of opportunities.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to make the first step or 2 and then things open up.
Yeah.
I think curiosity is one of your greatest allies.
Yes. Yes. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.